Want my not pure Eldlick build says, is that Donovan? Yeah, that's Donovan, right? I mean, yeah, that's fine, Donovan. Like, so the problem is, Donovan, I think I don't think I have to say this because I'm pretty sure most of you guys already know this. It's not even chat that I just don't like, I don't inherently like playing combo decks. I don't like that all combos really revolve around, I guess not the iSold ones, but and it's been this way for a while. All combos right now revolve around Halifabrax, really into Link Cross. So I just inherently rebel against that. I don't want to play anything that has Halifabrax as a card. I just refuse to play that. It's not interesting. It's boring to me. But I also like this. I also like the fact that this is essentially well, I wouldn't call this a stun deck. I think it's actually a beatdown deck. This deck feels very old school, chat. This doesn't really feel like a Vrain's deck. A Sevens deck. If you look at El Dorado, it really feels more like, let me think. I mean, I'm not talking about like the floating ability, how like every fucking trap card floats into something else, because that definitely feels like it's from Vrain's. But this deck really feels like it's from, I don't know, like fucking GX or something. Like just the way that the deck fundamentally operates. If you look at the cards individually, don't half of them just like Boojins? Okay, that's a fair example. So I guess, yeah, this deck feels like it's from like the Zexo era, chat. All the trap cards just like summon a zombie. Like if you look at that in a vacuum, it's like these cards all suck. You know, but they don't suck. It's like if I told you that there was a trap that just summoned a zombie from the deck, you'd be like, Cap, that's fucking terrible. Not only is it slow, but it just summons a zombie. That's really bad. And yet these cards like work. So yeah, this deck doesn't really feel like a new age Yu-Gi-Oh deck. Definitely doesn't feel like a deck from Sevens, other than the whole like every fucking thing floats. That definitely feels from that feels from what's it called. It's not combo. Yeah, and also I don't really like playing combo that much. This deck kind of fits my playstyle as a duelist. This is interesting. I saw a Sky Striker player bear on the Zodiac, or not Zodiac. I saw a Sky Striker player in the Sky Striker Facebook group, and they were running 3 Torrential. Chat, low-key, is Torrential good again? Because I actually feel like I was debating with Big Pimpin' and Selza, and you guys said, oh, Cap G out of touch, doesn't know anything. And I was just talking about trap cards, and I brought up Torrential. I wasn't even being serious, by the way. But like, I feel like that would actually be super, I feel like that'd be super ironic if like these cards kind of became good again, because no one even remotely thinks about them. People just like play into them. The deck is not bad. I actually won a few tournaments with, I never said El Dorado's bad. I just said nobody plays it. Prepared for VFD. Torrential is nice because Eldrick is protected from destruction when you summon him from the graveyard. Torrential is bad in non-trap based decks. I agree with that point. Oh, you know what? Hold on. I'm sorry. I have to say this, otherwise it's gonna sit inside me and fester. And I believe, chat, we are just not going to agree with this. I agree. We are not going to agree. This is going to be our molding moment of the stream. This was the grand argument that I was making, Selson, and I could not convey it. I could not convey it in text because it's obviously harder to convey an argument as you're typing. The reason why I do not believe that VFD, aka True King of All Calamities, should be banned is because I believe that there should be a penalty for not having a balanced deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! At its core, I believe that if you look at Yu-Gi-Oh! We have 3 types of cards. And this deck actually it's not super balanced, but it's kind of balanced. We have 3 types of cards, chat. Monster, Spell, and Trap. I feel like if you want to run a deck where you're playing 37 monsters, that's fine. That's your prerogative. But don't complain when you lose because you completely neglected the other 2 types of cards. That's just the way that I see that. I'm not saying every deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! Has to run 13 monsters, 13 traps, and 13 spells. But if you're just going to run one type and neglect the other 2, then don't complain. And I believe if you're going to just read the email, no, I didn't read it. It was too long. If you're going to make the argument that my combo that loses the True King of All Calamities, okay, fine. Then ban Imperial Order because my Sky Striker deck that plays 39 spells in array, like it loses to Imperial Order. Like to me, how's it not different, chat? How's it not different arguing that Imperial Order should be banned because it beats Sky Strikers, or Royal Decree, it should be banned because it beats Altergeist. To me, it's all cyclical. Like, if you want to play your deck and not have balance, that's fine, but you shouldn't. Like, you can't have your cake and eat it too. If you want to tell me that I'm being a boomer and traps are bad and we don't run traps because they're not proactive and they don't extend your game state, that's fine. But then don't complain when running all monsters becomes a problem because people have a card that counters that. That's all I'm basically saying. It's different because Konami is designing the game to punish people who play balanced decks instead of going full force turn 1. Are you sure about that? Because I thought you had a point, right? Because Celza's counter argument was largely people can't play traps, right? Like, you can't play traps in this format. And I don't know if I can disprove that, Big Pimpin'. I thought that was a legitimate point. Maybe until, hold on. And this is not anecdotal. That's Cap G's new word of the month, chat. Anecdotal. I heard Obama use that and I was like, I'm gonna start using that shit too. This is not anecdotal, chat. I have evidence. So let me back up my argument with evidence, as every good I guess debater would. Hold on. This is let's see. This is the LCS. This is what I have been told is the meta. So we are using this as the meta. We cannot play trap cards, right? Yet I see a Zodiac deck in the top 8. We're almost a third. I think this is 10, right? Is this 10, chat? Going across, is this 10? 3, 3, 3, 1. Oh, yes, 10. We have a Zodiac deck where 11 cards are traps. These are just plain Jane traps. Maybe you could argue impermanence is like pseudo kind of counts, doesn't count. But like, I feel like that's not a legitimate argument. Where you're saying, okay, well, Konami punishes us for playing trap. Well, then how did this top then? Like, how can a deck where 25% of the deck is just pure Jane purple trap cards, like, how can this be successful? You know what I mean? And permanence is a trap. If you wanted to discount impermanence, I'll give you that, because even combo decks kind of play impermanence because it is a literal hand trap. Impermanence is at the point where it almost doesn't count as a trap because you don't have to technically set it for it to be good. But when I see these type of decks, chat, like actually prospering, you can no longer convince me that you can't play traps in the meta. Like, that's just that argument's not going to work. Not when I actually see the evidence, chat.
Usually a dono to make you play some Megadeth and watch the other mods suffer play. Some garbage music. No, not this time. Tonight, my request is simple. Gingerly Avatar, we watching Black Lagoon later.
That was
KEKW.
Thank you very much, Lord Bakura. I mean, you just want to watch like 1, 2. See, okay, so the thing about Avatar is we're kind of going through the entire show, so it's like a progression series except anime. I mean, I feel like we can watch an episode of Black Lagoon, but I don't know how much that does to just like watch one episode, unless you want to watch the whole, what's it called? Zodiacs is a different beast in general. You only need 10 Okay, hold on. Avatar progression series. I like that.
The ironic thing about Torrential is that in old school Yu-Gi-Oh! It was the worst of the 4. Staple board wipes Torrential, Mirror Ray, Jeki, and Dark Hole. Now it's the only one of the 4 that's as good. Also,
thank you very much, Vintage Value. Just the first episode? Okay, that's fine. I agree, Selza. Selza, if your counter argument is that Zodiac is different, right? Because Zodiac is again, chat, it's a 1-card deck, right? And these 1-card decks, you could argue that you have the space to run purple traps. Because in Zodiac, which I guess these are these Zodiacs by extension, chat? So let's see, 3, 6, 9, 10. So you run 10 Zodiacs. Do you guys consider these to be monsters, basically? Barrage and Tenki, are these monsters, essentially, where we could say, instead of 10, they have 14 monsters. All right, so we'll say 14 monsters. Every single monster in a vacuum does the same thing. They all turn into Trident and then pretty much turn into Zeus. So it means that you can afford for your other 4 cards to just kind of be like 1-for-1s or powerful cards because Zodiac doesn't technically need extenders, right? Like a deck like Dragon Link or the Noble Knight deck does, where Noble Knight can't just summon one monster most of the time and be like, ha, I sold combo. Usually they need like 2 cards. Zodiac can just have one monster and do what it wants to do, and thus it can play traps, and that's fine. But I feel like that's not a compelling argument, because like there are going to be Yu-Gi-Oh decks like this. Like we have decks that are designed in different ways. The point that I'm making is you can't play a deck, in my opinion, chat, like Infernables, right? Where you play absolutely no purple cards, no traps at all, and then say, well, why am I losing to a card that stops all monsters? Like, you wanted to play a deck that's not bound. There's no rule saying that you can't play traps. And if you're saying, well, playing traps makes the deck worse, okay, but you can't always have your cake and eat it too. Like, to me, that is a risk. That is a calculated risk that you're taking, but you have to be okay with the fact that sometimes the calculated risk is not going to work out. That's all I'm saying. The reason that I talk about True King of All Calamities specifically, chat, is because I don't feel like True King of All Calamities is a card that stops everything. Your Topic Zexal stops literally everything. It stops spells, traps, and monsters. Like, every Yu-Gi-Oh deck should have the ability to play at least 2 of those 3. Come on now, you can't stop everything. And Shockmaster is the same exact thing. It can shut down all 3 of the mechanics, and it can do it for multiple turns. True King of All Calamities just shuts down 1 mechanic. That's it, just 1. Like, I feel like if you want to ban True King of All Calamities, that's fine. Then we have to ban Skill Drain, we have to ban Imperial Order, we have to ban Royal Decree, because certain decks lose to those cards too. So that's the way that I look at the argument, chat, as a whole. Like, if you want to ban True King of All Calamities, then you need to ban Royal Decree, because my Altergeist deck with 68 traps loses to it. Well, Altergeist deck with 50 traps, it loses to it. I donated for the... I know, I'm gonna play the video in a second, chat. I just want you guys to understand my argument. All of these problems would be solved with Max C at 3. Skill Drain isn't a monster. It's just like how Nightmare Goblin got banned before Brilliant Fusion did. I know. Well, see, the thing is, you're arguing that, X card is a card out of the extra deck, so it's easier to summon, right? But what deck really... Okay, don't use Virtual World. What deck really summons True King of All Calamities, like, easily turn 1? Because my understanding is it was kind of Dinosaurs. Like, Dinosaurs didn't even always go into it. Like, I feel like because we have this new deck, Eldritch, really, they always summoned it turn 1. I don't think I've ever really... How are Eldritch summoning it? Isn't El Dorado a 10? Isn't he a 10? How are they summoning it? It requires 2 9s. Generators, Dino... See, kind of did it. Like, the point is, there was no deck that was, like, always summoning it, like, 100% turn 1. We just happen to have that deck now. I'm not sold on... Dinosaurs was not a good enough reason to, like, ban VFD, because I don't think they were making it enough. Standard Needle Fiber combo.
Unreal.
Okay, hold on for a second. Gosh. Like, I feel like that's what's called. I'm not even sure if I want VFD banned, but I understand the argument for it. I feel like it's being looked at too much from a combo player's perspective. I'm not saying Selza has misconstrued me as a duelist, chat. Selza thinks that I want everybody to, like, be forced to play trap cards, right? And I want us all to have to play, like, Guru Mirror matches. That's not what I want. But what I'm saying is there should be, and you guys just tell me yes or no, should there be a punishment for people just completely disregarding traps as a mechanic in Yu-Gi-Oh? Like, if you just want to disregard them because you say they're too slow and they don't advance your game state, that's fine. But there has to be a penalty. We can't just live in this bubble where monsters are the only cards that we play. Like, that's just not healthy. We're like, okay, well, monster, that's all we, like, there has to be some penalty. If some decks can figure it out, like, the way that I look at it is, if Zodiac can figure it out, then you can figure it out too. You know what I mean? Like, look at these El Dorado decks, chat. Why do they have all 3 mechanics in them? I mean, this is a deck that technically only has 1 monster, right? Like, these decks have all 3 mechanics. How come Infernable doesn't run any traps? How come Dragon League does? Like, if they can figure it out, you can figure it out too. And actually, before I play the video, the thing that I was going to say is, and you guys just tell me if you agree or not, am I the only one who's, like, starting not to like this card that much, chat? Like, I don't know. It's just, It's just something about impermanence. Like I'm kind of starting not to like it that much. That's just me. Zodiac loses to VFD. How? Normal summon random Zodiac monster, make Dryden. Pass. Okay. As soon as your turn goes, pop VFD. If you respond with VFD, it doesn't matter. I've already activated my effect. S0 is more fair. How? I can't even use spell cards with S0. What? Like with F0, I can't use any of my cards at all. Unless you're just going on the whole attack thing. I think S0 is way less fair. I think you're just looking at it through this context of gamma impermanence. And that's not how you should be looking at it, in my opinion. Like I don't think you should be looking at it through the context of, well, gamma and impermanence counter it, which I don't even know if that's true, by the way. Because you pass turn? What, you mean against, and you can attack? I mean, yeah, but sometimes S0 is like 3,000 attacks. I don't know how you just attack over it. Yeah, I'm not, well, I mean, yeah, I don't know how you're going to get a 3,000 beater if you can't, like, use any effects. I mean, maybe you can figure that out.